if I was in like earnest, constant prayer in that moment, the truck was running fine.
Okay.
But the moment that I stopped,
we are Saints in the South, your source for gospel growth and good times. All right, everyone, welcome. Episode 122.
what?
This week, we are in Joshua. The entire book of Joshua.
The entire thing.
That's right.
Joshua.
So I wanted to kind of start out by reading one verse from the last chapter of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 9. And Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands upon him. And the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Lord commanded Moses. One of the...
It's a good segue.
That's right. One of the greatest transitions that we as a people get to experience is watching and sustaining one prophet to the next.
Yeah, that
right?
prophetic succession, yeah.
There's no politics. There's no, going out and campaigning.
Yeah,
right. There's none of that going on, and that's been taking place from the beginning of.
There's no voting.
There's no voting.
There's no voting on as far as the immediate. Who's the next president of the church?
That's
I mean, it's
that's right.
I guess you could say there was voting back when it first started. You sustain these people. It really wasn't a vote. It was sustaining.
Sustaining. That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So Joshua, and it said, Joshua was set apart, had his by Moses. He was given the keys to preside and everything, and fulfill that mantle. And you could, if you from outside looking in, I guess you could technically argue that there might be some politicking to work your way up to the quorum of the 12. Right.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there is, right.
No.
But someone could argue that, as far as knowing, but
being on the inside,
being on the inside, rubbing shoulder,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But once you make it to the quorum of the 12, you just got to outlive everybody.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
And who's in charge of how long we live?
That's right. The
I mean,
Lord.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
The Lord.
I mean,
That's
the
right.
Lord, the Lord's in charge of it.
It's something that's interesting to me, though, is that tradition, as far as I know, is just a tradition, though. It's not doctrine necessarily.
Correct.
So there might come a time where something might be different. It might be, we don't know. But yeah, so that's the way it's been done since the beginning of the Restoration. It's the senior member of the quorum.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's cool that a lot of people outside of the church, it might be difficult to understand because for us it's bigger than who's the next president of the United States. It's bigger than any, and it's such a smooth thing, and it just kind of happens. And I mean, the only other thing comparable to that would be, I guess, for the Catholic Church when there's a new pope, which it's kind of cool the way they do. They have at the Vatican there's like different colored smoke. When the colored smoke comes up, they know that the decision has been made. And so it's kind of a cool tradition.
So, and I'm sure the transition here for Joshua was probably pretty difficult, pretty kind of daunting. I mean, they've been led for by Moses for over 40 years now. Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing I did notice about the transition is that that must have been pretty smooth for the whole people in general, because there wasn't any. It doesn't sound like there was any uprisings or anything or any kind of like, oh no, why him?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, and it says, and the children of Israel hearkened unto him.
Yeah.
So they sustained him. They recognized the Lord's direction and everything.
That's pretty significant to me, as much as they murmured anyway, because it's
Right.
not like they never complained or
Right.
never questioned things. It's like they were notorious for this. You
Right.
know, like Moses at one time literally threw up his hands like, God, kill me now.
Yeah,
I can't
right.
put up with these people
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
And then they're all just like, yeah, Joshua.
Yeah,
everybody
cool.
knows Joshua. I think everybody's
Makes sense.
Well, and the kind of the easy thing again, these are all the youth that have grown up now, right?
That's
So
true.
they've
true.
all the old guys, what you call them, the OGs,
Yeah,
right?
the OGs.
The OGs have passed away except for
Joshua
and Caleb.
and Moses.
Yeah,
Well,
and
Moses
is now gone.
So,
That's right. Yep. And so just kind of thinking about Joshua and his kind of the daunting task. Evidently, he struggled a little bit with it because in chapter 1, 5, 6, 7, and 9, and I'll just take a couple excerpts from it. It says, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest." So the Lord had to do some convincing to Joshua. It sounds like to me, hey, you can do this.
Right.
I've got you back. So.
Kind of like it was with Moses, right?
Yeah.
Moses was
that's
like,
right.
"Lord, I don't think you got the right guy." And the Lord was like, "I'm telling you, I'm calling you. You're the guy."
You're the one. That's right.
And it seems a little bit like a catch-22 here, because you think, man, how can you follow Moses?
Right.
Wow. Well,
Right.
good luck there, buddy. You're next.
Exactly.
You're up to bat. But it's like also the fact that you are following Moses, because wow, what a great protege. I mean, what a great person to learn from.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, so it's almost like, yeah, it would be difficult to follow Moses, but in the context of what we're talking about, it's not really a competition. But also, man, you're following Moses. You got to learn from the best. Let's just be honest. I mean, one of the best. And so that's
Yeah, well, the natural man, if you think about Relief Society presidents, Elder Quorum presidents, young men presidents, bishops,
Right.
stake presidents, and if you've followed just an awesome leader, right, and you got to step into that role that was just being fulfilled. It's kind of natural to kind of think, man, how am I going to do compared to the previous leader?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but if we're focused on that, then the Lord's not going to be able to get everything out of us that He needs to and wants to. So.
That's right.
And it's crazy because he had such a hard, Joshua had such a hard upbringing, because he didn't have any parents. He was the son of none.
What? I was like, okay, what? Wait, what?
That's a dad joke. Sorry.
He had me going there for a second.
Yeah, I was like,
like,
wait,
yeah.
what?
You're like, wait a minute, what? Wait, no parents. What are you saying?
Okay,
He was the son of none.
the son of none.
We don't know who this nun guy is.
That's right. What else y'all got for this? For these conquering Israelites?
Yeah, man. I mean, here we go. I mean, it's it's almost like the story starts over again. I mean, it's not really, but I mean, they're here at the promised land now. They're ready to go. They're fired up. Moses just got done doing a huge pep talk. Gathered them all together in a circle, turned it over to Joshua, and Moses says, "See you later. I'm going to my promised land." Yeah,
Have at it.
And so now that's the moment where I'm sure Joshua felt that weight, definitely on his shoulders, but. So that they're ready to go into the promised land, and man, right off the bat, or it seems like right off the bat, the way we read it, but man, these miracles start happening for Joshua, very similar to things that happened with Moses.
Oh yeah,
I never knew about the River Jordan party.
Honestly, to me
cool.
now, learning about it, it's almost more impressive. How can you compare the two, the parting of the Red Sea or the crossing the River Jordan? But man, I like the story, the River Jordan story.
Yeah,
I like it because there's the significant difference, which a lot of people know this, is with the Red Sea, they didn't really have to do anything. Moses just parted it and they went.
right.
River Jordan, they had to actually take steps into the water before the water actually, so it requires more faith. But it makes sense because this group of people should have more faith than when they first started. So, that's the way it works with us. Our degree of faith is met with the degree of miracles, I guess, or however you want to put that. I don't know if that makes sense. But, it's the more faith we have, the more, the more we're tested, the more the Lord trusts us and things like that, and expects more of us, I guess I should say. So he did expect a little bit more out of this, I want to call it the second generation.
And there were, and again, this generation are people that weren't around for the part in the Red Sea or were very, very young when it took place.
Exactly.
They had to step out in faith. For sure. Like, I thought of that phrase, it's like they literally had to step out, like, okay, just start walking into the water.
Right.
And just got to have faith that this is going to happen.
So Joshua sent some spies.
He
sent
did.
some spies over.
He understands that.
That's right.
He knows what is required of a spy, doesn't he?
Yep.
I bet he had a good talking to with those spies.
That's right.
He's like, look here, man. Let me tell you this little story of what happened not too long ago, about 38 years ago.
And that's where I guess the story of Rahab.
Rahab the harlot.
Rahab the harlot.
Rahab the harlot. Yep, ends up playing a very critical role.
Oh yes.
So was she a harlot or not? No one really knows definitively, I don't think. I mean, even the church has said that it's possible that she was.
Yeah.
And when we say, it's a prostitute,
right?
Basically.
Yeah. Right.
That was possibly her past.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, I like to think that she was, because that illustrates that. Yeah, no matter what kind of life you've lived in the past, or you might be living right now,
you turn it over.
You can choose to be obedient to the Lord, and He can change you. And it really it makes me think of I think there's a phrase that we, in my opinion, this is just me, don't necessarily use enough in the church that like other Christians talk about being born again. It's like more of a common phrase, and we don't say that much, but like it really is to me significant. Like Rahab, she was a born again Christian. I mean, obviously this is before Christ, but she was a different, she had a very, very questionable past, obviously. That's how she was known, as Rahab the harlot, and here she goes on to do great things, and she goes on to literally be part of the the lineage of Christ Himself. And so it's really amazing to me how what a change. It's one person. It's amazing what one person can do. You might not think. I'm sure Rahab probably, in her younger years, whatever she probably felt like she was nothing. If she was living that way, she was just a prostitute and just whatever. And then she went on to become some amazing person that we're studying about thousands of years later.
And she's even testified of in the New Testament, I think.
Yes.
And was it who else testified? Anyway, we know that she turned her life over to the Lord. She became a disciple of following the doctrine and everything else. But that's a pretty interesting thing. That would be an interesting story to see, like where. That's one of those. I talked about it, I think during the Book of Mormon podcast that we did.
We've done so many of these; it's hard to.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I just remember talking about these little side stories, like the Star Wars. How they do like a Han Solo movie, and where's the Rahab movie? I mean, where did she get? There had to be something that changed her. She was like, wait a minute, I want to do something. Because. These cities and things. The Lord didn't, and I think I said this in the last podcast, but the Lord didn't just leave these people out to dry as He took care of, these Israelites, and that's all He worried about. No, He's got many children everywhere in the city of Jericho, so He's trying to inspire them and get them going as good as He can. Also, these are descendants of. I would assume these are descendants of obviously Abraham, and I mean, you got people all over the place. Is what I'm getting at. And so these people weren't just left out to dry. It wasn't like Rahab had no idea of anything about the Lord or anything about,
Well, they were definitely descendants of Noah, we know at least.
Noah, yeah, exactly.
Sure,
so they had to come there had to be something somewhere. And so she was changed. Her heart was changed, obviously. And so, but she did some amazing things here. I mean, that, honestly could have got her killed. And
that goes to show to me too that, anyone has the right to receive inspiration from the Holy Ghost. We might have the gift, but like so out of all these people in this town, I can't even imagine being in that situation. There's these spies coming into your city and like something, there had to have been some moment where she decided, like that she wanted to change or something, and she was humbled and receptive to the Holy Spirit, and because it could only be the Holy Spirit in that case that would have told her, hey, these people, you need to protect them. Yeah. These aren't just some random spies come to plunder your city. You know, these are people, these are important, you know, and something, she recognized something about them. And she put herself in danger. She really, you know, that was courageous.
She was confronted, saying, you know, have you seen the spies? They've come this way, and she hit them.
Yeah.
And then provided a way for them to get out and without harm and be able to return and report.
Yep.
Yes.
To Joshua.
Absolutely.
There, so.
Yeah, I mean, it would. I know I'm just harping on this, but to me, it's like it's so significant because it's the only other things I can think of to compare it to would be like, you know, during World War II, Germany, people that hid Jews, you know, like knowing if you get caught, you're going to die.
Right.
This ain't no joke. You're not just going to get in trouble. You'll die. Or people who harbored slaves in you know, in the U.S., in the Underground Railroad, trying to help people escape from slavery and stuff. You know, it's like, dude, you're in danger. This isn't this. Yeah. If you're gonna die if you get caught doing this. So yeah, this took a lot of courage on her part.
She had some faith. She had a lot of hope, a lot of faith, a lot of courage. And of course her, you know, she wanted to be saved. She didn't want to be.
Yeah, she was negotiating. She was bargaining.
Yeah,
like, listen, if I save y'all, you're gonna have to save us,
make
my
sure
family.
That we don't go down.
And
with
started
the ship,
naming
guys. You know.
Yeah, so her and her household were the only ones saved.
And I thought it was very interesting how that she would give the signal to know that this household here, you don't mess with, you know. And it's in verse 18, it says, "Behold, when we come into the land," this is chapter 2 of Joshua, "Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window, which thou didst let us down by. And thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all thy father's household home unto thee." So the scarlet, this red, I would assume if it's something that they let them down by, it had to be something strong. Some kind of
thread, but it had to be more of like a rope or something.
Right. But that
like
was
when
the
I got out back
signal.
there.
Yeah, like the rope you just put up out there in the back, you know, for the, you know, rope climb. So she puts down that red rope or red whatever it is, sash, I don't know, scarf, I don't know what it was. But bed sheet, I don't know. But anyway, she lets that down. And it's red, and it's just made me think like the blood over the door for the Israelites to pass by. It was red, you know, obviously that's blood. Right. And I'm thinking there's some similarities. There's some symbolism here that's pretty deep, you know. But it's there. It's very interesting to see things like that, you know, to pass by her house.
Right.
Like, we'll know to pass by your house. And it was actually, if I understand right, it was the men that said that to her. Yeah, because it wasn't her idea to leave the red sash. It was just they said to do that. Like, leave that red sash. We'll know, and we swear that we'll tell everybody that when they see that, don't mess with that house.
I wonder how that had to make sure when they got ready to go attack. You know, listen, if you see this red sash, do not touch that house.
Do not touch it. You leave them alone. They're good. They're our allies. So, but yeah, you know, it's interesting, and you know, I'm sure the Israelites got that from. Not that, you know, it could have been a blue sash. I mean, but it happened to be red. But, you know, they probably did think of that and say, you know what, let's leave that red sash right there because that reminds me of what our forefathers did.
Right.
You know, when they put the blood.
That's
over
right.
the door.
Very true. Very true.
There's some connection there with that kind of thing.
So one of the criticisms that Christian religion gets is why would God be so destructive, I guess, to these people, city after city. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to read here this is from the Institute Manual. It says, the inhabitants of Canaan were ferocious and warlike. They resisted bitterly any attempt by others to settle on land they regarded as their own. But the Lord had given Canaan to the Israelites, and it was theirs to hold if only they had courage and strength to wrest it from the Canaanites and keep it safe from their enemies. In the strength of God, Joshua and Israel became fearless. Nations trembled at the mention of their name. Courageously, they swept over the land of Canaan, and then it goes on about and just kind of talking about all the different places they went. But the people, basically, the difference is that all the other cities they weren't a God fearing people. And God had promised that He was going to, again, going back to the covenant with Abraham, right, and all that he would be blessed with. And so This was going to be God's people's land, the children of Israel.
Yeah,
And so-
absolutely. There's two things that remind I was reminded of in this that it does. It seems brutal, man. Like God told him to go and kill the women, the children. Like oh my gosh, it sounds horrifying.
Burned cities.
Yes,
burned them
destroyed
to the ground.
everything. Just man. But okay, so number one, the first thing I thought of was our discussions about the flood. How that seems like, there's conversations that I've had, with people about how God, how could God just kill everybody, blah, 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 but we know that it was actually an act of mercy on his part. This was his children. He loved the people that died in the flood, but they were going in such a way that, things were going to get worse and worse for their generations, for their children, their grandchildren and everything. So he did what he had to do. And also that eternal perspective, that's the thing that for me is we think of death as the worst possible thing that can happen to someone, but really it's not. When you have an eternal perspective, death is that's just the end of one stage. That's just the end of your mortal existence. But, things that you're going to continue. And we understand through the restored gospel that we can still progress, to a certain extent. These people would have had, all the people who died in the flood would have had the opportunity to hear the gospel. They would have had the opportunity to accept it. And also, the second thing I thought of was in the Book of Mormon, how, we see these cycles of the Nephites went through. They'd be righteous for a while, and then they would kind of start falling away. And, the Nephites those were God's chosen people in a way here. Those were the people that were, the righteous ones. But when they were unrighteous, the Lord didn't protect them. Like the Lamanites there's a lot of Nephites that got brutally murdered by Lamanites because they were not living according to the way the Lord, wanted. The Lord wants to bless them. He wanted to protect them. But when they decided to go their own way, they decided to withdraw themselves from him, they lost his protection. And, so the Lamanites fell on them and just started slaughtering them. There's, war after war after war. So this to me, it makes me think of, the people of Canaan, obviously those were God's children too. And I'm sure he loved them. But at the same time, it's just like the Lamanites, just like the people who died in the flood. It's like I can't bless you like this,
Right.
So I'm going to have to allow this to happen. These people have been righteous. These are the people who've been following me. They've been heeding my word. And so this land is theirs.
So it makes me think about, the end of times, and we know the burning and the everything that will kind of take place. And again, it's hard to read that in the Old Testament and just how ferocious or just destructive the children of Israel were to these cities. But in watching some of these current videos that are going on right now with the whole Roe v. versus Wade deal. Yeah. And watch these people. I watched a video yesterday, and at these abortion protests and everything, these pro-abortion protests and everything. This guy comes up and he's talking, and he's wanting to talk to him about Jesus, and that's what he's trying to do. And the wrath that they unload on this guy, and just evil, and just talking evil about God and about Christ and how he's not real, and they've left Christ long ago. I mean, just it was just evil. It's like that. and watching them talk about how they have no, the baby has no rights, isn't alive at no matter what stage and everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to go punch those people in the face. That's what I want to do.
Oh yeah.
So now thinking back here and how ferocious these people were, it makes sense, because I want to go destroy every person that talks like that, about killing babies.
And the only upside to God doing it is that, like Kenny was saying, it can be taken care of the proper way. Right. Sure, they're getting wiped out physically, right? But they're wiping themselves out spiritually.
Yes,
right.
So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, as an eternal Father and a Father that knows all, I mean, it makes sense. You're digging your hole deeper and deeper and deeper as far as your soul goes. I need to stop this, and the only way that I can stop it at this point is I just got to take you out physically, and then we'll start taking care of the process of what needs to happen, so that we can get you the highest degree of glory that you can get.
Just the analogy that I used before about with Noah, to me it was like a coach taking you out of the game.
Right.
It's like, you're messing up, dude. you're out. It's like that's not the worst thing that can happen.
Right.
But if you look at life through eternal perspective, like that's these people being slaughtered is essentially them just being taken out of the game. It's like you've been messing up. It doesn't mean that your life, your existence is over because just because your mortal life has ended here, it doesn't, so you have a chance.
You still go on living.
Yes.
I think our mind automatically goes to these people are worthless. The Lord doesn't think anything about them, and when in reality, like as we're talking and as we discuss, it's the opposite. They're worth too much to Him to allow them to go off and just continuously die spiritually. What's the alternative? The Lord doesn't take them out. The Lord says, "Okay, y'all move in with them." This isn't going to work. Why? Because eventually they're going to corrupt the rest of the Israelites. I mean, it can't work. It won't work. And these people were too prideful to leave their city. To leave the city of Jericho. They weren't going to leave. They weren't going to give it up. That's our land. You're not taking it. I'm sure if they all said, "Yeah, we're gone. We'll see y'all later." I mean, the Lord would be like, "Okay, I guess that's fine. Get out of here." But they would have continued to come back, and they would have continued to infiltrate and basically corrupt the people. And we saw that with the Tower of Babel and things like that after the flood. The things that happened, not long after the flood, how corrupt. And it wasn't just that, these are some bad, gangster people over here. No, these were people that got so evil, it festered so much that they were sacrilegious. They would take the covenants that they knew temple covenants and things, and do terrible things with them and manipulate it and tell it to the world and make fun of it and mock it.
And they're so wicked though that they don't even see. They think they're the ones in the right, and we see that today too. Just like Jackson was talking about. They remind me. I saw a video too one time. There was a memorial. Where these people had put up a field of little crosses. And each one of them represented a child that had been lost to abortion. And there was these people came in and just was like stomping the crosses and screaming and it was it was demonic. Yeah, it really was. Yeah. When you're watching these people, it's like, gosh, it just gives you chills. Like, man, these people are demonic, and it really is. They're so lost. They legitimately feel like they're in the right somehow. No matter how evil or despicable or they are, they think they're in the right. They're so lost they don't even see the error of their ways, and it's difficult.
Well, on the video I mentioned, one of the people literally started chanting "All hail to Satan."
Really?
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
It's like, what do you do? What do you do?
It's getting crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now they gotta. So they're going in to take over Jericho, and they have to cross the River Jordan, and they. I try to picture that there's a lot of people here. I mean, this is a lot of people. I mean, we're talking, from the numbers, which we just got out of numbers, talking about numbers before. It's called numbers because of that. It was talking about the number of the Israelites. Right. And, there's been figures all the way up to like 2 million people. There's not an actual, we can't get a super good, but it was 600-something thousand just men, basically, that could fight. That's an army right there. That's not no small... that's something you see that coming towards your city today. There's going to be some concern.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's not going to be like, these guys are idiots. Just let them do what they're going to do. No, this is like, no, what's going on here? This ain't good. And so, but Jericho's a very powerful city, a very fortified city.
Right.
It's huge walls all the way around. And so, I'm sure they're feeling maybe a little confident that, okay, well, that's what we got these walls for, guys. We're gonna be all right. What's going on? What's but still 600,000 men that can fight, much less 3 million or 2 million people. How many they said total? Children, women, everything. That's a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway, they're coming after them, but they do have to cross the River Jordan to get across there. And they lead out in verse 13, chapter 3, and it shall come to pass as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests that bear the ark of the Lord. By the way, that was another thing that Jericho feared. They knew they had the Ark of the Covenant. It was something that they knew about, I guess, and I guess through I don't know if it's rumors.
Yeah, I think word travels.
Word travels.
Yeah,
they know about this Ark of the Covenant and how it's, the stories and this and that. And so when they see that, and they go, it's pretty impressive. Was what I'm getting at. What they're seeing, it's pretty impressive. They got these priests that are carrying this Ark.
Right.
What's going on here? This isn't just a little bunch of ragtag.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And so they're going. So the guys that are carrying the Ark, they go into the water first. They go down into the water. And this River Jordan, I was going to look up some stats on this thing. I don't know how deep it is or what. It is a river, though. I mean, so it's got to be. So, but anyway, they said, okay, we're going to just start walking into the water. And they did. And it says, the Lord of all the earth shall rest in the waters of Jordan, that the waters of Jordan shall be cut off from the waters that come down from above, and they shall stand upon an heap. I guess it just means that the waters is pushed up like a wall.
Yeah,
that's the way I understand it.
Yeah, that's why
on one side, I guess, because it's a river, obviously, so it's coming down. But he stopped that, and it built up, I guess. But they just walked across,
Yeah.
But they had to get their feet wet, and I love
It'd have to be a
that
lot of
analogy.
faith too. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be to see this
absolutely.
gigantic wall of water just?
I mean,
knowing that if at any second you would die if this thing, just
and here's the
trying to picture this.
Think
like,
about this.
Cow.
Think about this for us. We do things. We have to do things like this in life. I think. I think if we haven't already, we will. I really believe it. If we truly want to become like the Lord, we got to go through things like this. Not only are these people walking across this River Jordan, and they're having to get their feet wet. Don't even know. All I know is we're supposed to cross it. That's what the Lord told us to do. We were supposed to go over here to this city. So they're getting their feet wet. But what else do they see? They see those huge walls in front of them too. They haven't even got to that part yet.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on here.
Right.
There is tremendous faith that's required. I think if we could rewind back to Moses, I think Moses, one of his main purposes was to try to get through to them to say that the Lord can do anything. I think that's what the Lord's done this whole time. Here's the manna from heaven, just out of the blue. We've crossed the Red Sea. We've, all these wonderful things. I think it was to show that, hey, I can do anything. Maybe it's for this moment that's coming up when they're crossing this river that's not going anywhere as we step into it. Wait, guys, really? Are we still going? Are we still going?
Right.
Wait a minute. We're going to drown here. And then all of a sudden, too, right there in the ditch, you can see the walls, the huge walls. What are we even going to do there? We can't. What's going to happen there, man? So
we see the rivers that we have to cross. We see the walls that we have to bring down in this case.
Yeah, and they have no idea how that's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah. It's a lot. I mean, it just goes to show just how much we got to trust in the Lord. And I had a thought last night actually, and it's not when we trust in the Lord to trust in Jesus Christ doesn't require that we know Him perfectly. It doesn't require us to know Jesus Christ perfectly to trust Him, but it does require that we know that He knows us perfectly, right? And so they have to learn these principles, man. They have to be embedded. This has to be in their brains and their souls because there's some big stuff coming up. I don't know. It'd be huge, We can do all things through Christ. That's a literal statement.
So do any of us have any experiences where we've had to really cross a river? I mean, not literally cross a river, but it's something like that in our life. Like it's been.
I love questions like this, but I hate when it happens in the moment because I can't. My mind goes bloop. It just stops, and it's like, oh man.
I do have something that comes to mind. It's an interesting. So my wife Megan and I. So before we were married, when we were still dating, and she was living in Tampa, and she was moving back from Tampa because her mom was sick too. So she was actually a part of the reason. Was so we could be closer. Part of the reason was too that her mother was sick and she needed to be closer to home. So she and I took her dad's truck and we're going to go down and get some of her belongings from her apartment in Tampa. And so bless his heart, my father loved this little truck, and it had so many problems though, and so this thing was just falling apart, and it was. I'm trying to remember what exactly what exactly was going on, but it was basically like this thing was like about to just blow up and fall apart any second. Like, it was going to happen. And it was like it would start making a racket and start shaking and like knocking in it. I was like, holy cat. And I was so freaked out. It's in this late at night because we were driving down late. We were going to get up the next morning and do these things. And so I actually remember praying just like an earnest prayer as I'm driving, like, Lord, please help me with this, because if this truck just breaks down in the middle of nowhere here on the side of the road, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's late. There's, blah, blah, blah. And as I'm praying my heart out so hard, and it's like, it kind of smooths out and things just start going good. I'm like, oh yes. Okay, cool. And then and this was really interesting. It's kind of like the Leahona or something in a way, because I literally, when I would start to kind of relax a little bit, it would start going again. Right. I was like, oh my gosh, oh Lord, please hold this. And it was literally like, if I was in like earnest, constant prayer in that moment, the truck was running fine.
Okay.
But the moment that I stopped, it was like it started messing up again, and it was the strangest thing. It was the strangest thing. It just kept, and it was like that, like for hours, just so it was a really strange experience, but it was one of those little things that for me was so faith building and such a, built my testimony, because it was just like, holy cow, this is, because if it happened once or twice, it could be a coincidence, but it was like there was a pattern. I was like, at one point I started to actually like test it,
right?
I'm like, this is weird. It seems like when I stop praying, so I'm just gonna stop praying and start listening to music for a minute or something. And it literally, I was like, this is so strange. But it was kind of like, just keep going,
and it's like, I gotta turn that off.
But yeah, it was almost like, I had to step out. I had to just keep driving and just have faith. But the moment
and really focus and intent and know that God was holding this vehicle together.
Literally, that's literally how it felt in that moment. Like, as long as I am putting my faith 100% in that at that moment in Him, He was holding that little truck together. And so it was a neat experience.
That's cool. That's good. I appreciate you sharing that.
So there is something I want to mention that I don't want to overlook. So in chapter 7, we were talking about the people of Canaan being destroyed because they weren't righteous, and I was alluding to the flood and the Nephites in the Book of Mormon. So at one point there were certain things the accursed things that the Lord told them not to take. There was like certain things that they were able to take and consecrate to the Lord, and there was a lot of other things that were like, you don't take this.
Yeah.
And so then we got the story of Clay Aiken. I meant Aiken. I'm sorry.
Clay Aiken.
American Idol.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Clay Aiken. That's what I kept thinking of. Aiken. So Aiken apparently took something he wasn't supposed to, and there was repercussions for this. So the people of apparently there was 36 men of the Israelites that were killed because they were killed by the people of Ai because they didn't have the Lord's protection. Yeah. And they didn't have the Lord's protection because Achan tried to be sneaky and take something that the Lord told him not to take. Mm-hmm. And so, in the event, him and his whole family were destroyed because of this. So that was like, that kind of gives me chills. It's like, dude, you got to watch out, because in situations like this, it makes me think of too, like in the church or something, or in our communities, if we're not being righteous, it might not just be us that are harmed because of this. We might literally be putting other people in danger if we're doing something that we think is not going to hurt anybody but ourselves. That's like, I'm not hurting anybody. Yeah. I'm just taking, if Lord's not happy with me, He can punish me. But this doesn't have anything to do with anybody else, And so, He literally just had the stuff. Was it buried in his tent? He had this, like, I'm just going to have my little hiding hole
from everybody else, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to hide it. And I'm thinking about, what about the families of these 36 men that were killed? Like, they're like, dude, what are you doing?
Wow.
So can't let our guard down.
Yeah. Think of the circumstances for Achan, though, and that's exactly when we let our guard down. Everything's going great.
Yeah.
I'm with the good people. We're defeating everybody. Everything's going wonderfully. what's it going to hurt if I take some of this over here? I mean, look how much the Lord is with us. We're great. We're good. Yeah. Everything's prosperous. Everything's working great. And it's kind of like with that truck, you know, you start thinking like, hey, man, okay, it's running smooth.
We got this.
I'm going to throw on some invasion of your privacy by Rat, you know, some old 80s metal here. And it's going to, you know, and I'm not knocking 80s metal if you like 80s metal. I'm not saying it's the devil. Some may think it's the devil. I'm just saying. But no, I mean, you're throwing that on. Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't Motley Crue. It was only Rat.
Right, yeah, it's just Rat, you know, it wasn't Motley Crue. But, you know, so you throwing that on and all of a sudden it's like, power goes down. It's like, you know, let me get back and start concentrating in it. And so, but that's the thing with Achan here in this moment. Everything's running on all 8 cylinders. Everything's great. Mm-hmm. So, hey, I can afford this or I can afford to do that. Lord's with us. I mean, he understands, you know. But that's when we can falter. You know, we got to be careful.
Yeah, I think it goes to show how conscious we have to be of everything. I think of when your experience reminded me of Moses, and then Aaron and holding his arms up, and every time they dropped his arms, right, then or Moses dropped his arms, then Joshua would be defeated by the Amalekites. But every time his arms were up, so they had to consciously do that. Right. And so with your experience, with what Marcus is saying, when things are going great and everything seems okay, it seems like that's the most important time that we have to really be on our toes.
When we're prosperous, that's when we tend to forget the Lord.
When it gets easy. Yeah,
that's right. You know, and I also just wanted to make mention before we end out here is that. You know, this army, this you know, with Joshua leading and everything, it reminds me a lot of Captain Moroni.
Oh yeah,
you know, this dude's like he's going to cities now, and they're just like they're running,
right?
Because they're like, oh, what's going on? And that's the way, you know, we learned about Captain Moroni in the Book of Mormon, and people feared him, you know, because they knew like this guy's super strong. This guy's got the Lord with him.
He's got his
you know, he's so. But it's just really cool stuff, man.
Very good. Well, I don't think we can get out of the book of Joshua without ending with Joshua 24:15. Choose you this day whom you will serve.
Oh, yeah.
But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
That's right.
And 24:32, Joseph's bones.
Oh yeah, they finally buried him.
They finally buried Joseph.
Yes. They finally buried Joseph.
They
Poor
finally
feller,
said
he's been just hanging out.
Can we stop carrying this guy around and put him in the ground somewhere?
How long has it been now? It's been a little while.
Right.
It's been a little while. The way that they say is that it was probably like a sarcophagus or whatever, like he was a mummified, you know, just like Egyptian mummified.
Right, yeah.
So they've been carrying this thing around forever.
Right, yeah.
He probably, you know, they came from Egypt. They were probably familiar with the mummification process. So it probably was just a mummy.
It'd be very interesting, you know, to see where they buried that, you know.
Yeah, that was just funny to me. I mean, they've been carrying this thing around in the wilderness for 40 years. Like,
Joseph's bones has been around.
Body put in the grave. That's right. Well, all righty. Until next time, y'all keep on striving.